Külüg Khan, born Khayishan, also known by the temple name Wuzong, was an emperor of the Yuan dynasty. Apart from emperor of China, he is regarded as the seventh great Khan of the Mongol Empire or Mongols, although it was only nominal due to the division of the empire. His name means warrior Khan, a fine horse Khan in the Mongolian language. Early career. He was the first son of Bala and Dagi of the influential Külüg clan, and the full brother of Bawada. He was sent to Mongolia to assume an army that defended the western front of the Yuan against Kaidu, de facto ruler of the Chagatai Khanate, and other princes in Central Asia under him. In 1289, Khayishan's force was nearly routed and the Kipchak commander, Tuta, rescued him from capture by Kaidu's army. In 1301 he clashed with Kaidu, who died from a battle wound. In recognition of the great success, Külüg Khan was given the title of Prince Wining in 1304. When Chapa attacked Duwa, Timur helped the latter and sent an army under Khayishan. In 1306 Khayishan forced Melik Timur, a son of Arkubok, who was aligned himself with Kaidu, to accept a surrender in the Altai Mountains and pushed Kaidu's successor Chapa westward. For these military achievements he gained a high reputation among Mongol princes and non-Mongol court. Since his uncle Timur Khan did not have a male heir, he was considered a major candidate for the emperor enthronement. In 1307, when Timur Khan died, he returned eastward to Karakoram and watched the situation. Timur's widow Bulan of the Bayar tribe had kept away the Külüg mothered brothers of Khayishan and Bawada and attempted to set up Ananda, a Muslim cousin of Timur, who was the prince of Hsi. Her alliance was supported by some senior officials of the Secretariat under architect. They made Bulugan regent and intended to put Ananda on the throne. Ananda was a popular prince who successfully protected the province of the Yuan against the Oghid and Chagatai armies and had a bulk of the imperial army under him in Hsi, but he lacked of military power in the imperial capital city and was a Muslim opposed to the majority of the Yuan Mongols. The Darkhan Khayishan Tura, a great-great-grandson of Chagatai Khan, and Yakuta, a descendant of Tolui, fought for the candidacy of Dharmabala's sons against them. The pro-Dharmabala faction arrested Ananda and Bulgan by coup and recalled Bawada and Dagi from Henan. Then, Khayishan decided to hold the coronation ceremony in Shangdu just as his great-grandfather Kublai Khan did, and advanced southward with 30,000 soldiers from Mongolia. He was welcomed by Bawada, who gave up emperorship and ascended to the throne. He had executed Ananda and Bulan before succession. Arkubok's son, Melik Timur, was also executed because of his support for Ananda. Khayishan's enthronement at Shangdu on June 21, 1307 was performed properly at Kurultai. After that he made his younger brother Bawada the heir apparent, and they promised that the descendants would succeed each other on relay reign. Soon after Khayishan's accession, the classic of filial piety, one of the works attributed to Confucius, having been translated into the Mongolian language, was distributed in the empire. He granted the princes and officials who attended his ceremony lavish gifts in accordance with amounts set by the previous Khan. Huge amounts, moreover, were spent on the construction of Buddhist temples at Dadu and Shangdu. Fresh honors were decreed to the memory of the old sage, and the characters touching were added to his titles. His administration was founded on the unstable balance between Khayishan, his younger brother Bawada, and the mother Dagi of the Külüg clan. Khayishan appointed Bawada as crown prince on the condition that he would pass the status to Khayishan's son after succession. He generously gave bonus to imperial princes and Mongol aristocrats, and enjoyed popularity among them. Khayishan Külüg Khan freely gave away noble and official titles and filled the government with supernumeraries, having little regard for the unwritten law of Kublai Khan that only sons of Khagans could be made princes of the first rank. He granted the Genghisids and the non-Borjigans many princely titles. Meanwhile, he was plagued by financial difficulties which was caused by free spending policies and long-standing military spending. So he brought back the Department of State Affairs for Financial Affairs in parallel with the Central Secretariat for Administrative Affairs. He changed branch offices of Zhongshushang to those of Shangshushang to strengthen monopoly in salt and other goods. He issued new bills called Jida Yin Chao to replace Ji Yuan Chao. His anti-inflation plans did not achieve adequate results in his short reign and dissatisfied Han Chinese officers and commoners. He attempted to push through a new non-convertible silver currency but was defeated by public resistance. Although he first shared with Ayabawada the tutorship of the Confucian scholar Li Meng, he apparently was little affected by Confucian culture. He transferred Khayishan to Mongolia as the Grand Counselor of the left wing of Branch Secretariat of Linpei. Despite his great contribution, Khayishan heavily relied on his retainers and commanders he had brought from Mongolia. He gave key posts to them and favored non-Mongol corps including the Kipchak, the Asud and the Kangli. In contrast, he did not reward abundantly the Kungirad faction who had carried out a coup against Bulawan. Because Tula said something suspicious, enraged Khayishan suspected that he had a further object, and had him tried and put to death. Khayishan greatly favored Buddhism, so that he ordered the Tibetan Lama Chogdosor to translate the sacred books of Buddha. When the Buddhist monks made mistakes except in cases affecting the Yuan dynasty, he refused to punish them. A law was passed that whoever struck a lama should lose his tongue, but Ayabawada appealed it as entirely contrary to precedent. However, Khayishan was the first Khagan to tax the lands held by the Buddhist monks and the followers of Taoism, hitherto exempt. In order to reduce the cost of supporting the Yuan bureaucracy, he issued an order in 1307 to dismiss the supernumeraries and to bring total number of officials in line with the quota that had been set by his uncle Timur Khan. The order produced no practical results. The number of bureau's chief officials jumped from 6 in Kublai's reign to 32. He also had the building of court officials and a new palace city built at Dadu and Zhongdu. In 1308 the Goryeo king Chungyeo of Korea died, and Khayishan sent a patent for his successor Chungzyan. That year Shapa and other princes of the Khanate of Oghadee came to Khayishan with the submission, permanently ending the threat against the Chagatai Khanate and the Yuan dynasty by Khayiju's sons. During his reign, the Yuan completed the subjugation of Sakhalin, forcing its Ainu people to accept the supremacy in 1308. The paper became so depreciated in value that in 1309 there was a fresh issue made to replace that which was the discredited paper, but this also sank rapidly in value, and at length the Emperor Khayishan determined upon a recurrence to the ancient money, and accordingly, in 1310, there were struck two kinds of copper coins, having Mongol characters upon them, some with the inscription, "Precious money of the Jida period," and others with this legend, "Precious money of the Great Yuan." These copper coins were of three sizes: one of the value of 1 li, 2 of the value of 10 li, and 3 of coins worth several of those of the dynasties Tang and Song dynasties. Khayishan's court encountered financial difficulties. For example, the total government expenditure for the year 1307 was 10 million ting of paper notes and 3 million dan of grains. By 1310, 10 million 603,100 ting had been borrowed from the reserves for current expenditures. Tuli's son Koketsu conspired against the emperor with the high court officials and Buddhist monks in 1310, but the plans were discovered. The monks were duly executed, and Koketsu was exiled to Korea. Aslan, the governor of Dadu and commander of the Kashig, shared same fate with the conspirators. He was executed with several of his companions. During Khayishan's reign, all branch secretariats were renamed branch departments of state affairs. The new major department of state affairs came under Tota, the Grand Counselor of the Left, Sanpanu and Ueshi, managers of the government affairs, and Paupa, the assistant administrator of the right. The selling price of salt licenses issued under the state monopoly was raised by 35% over the price in 1307. A grain tax surcharge of 2% was imposed on the wealthy families of Chiangnan. The merits of tax collectors were evaluated on the basis of the percentage increase in the taxes they collected. The tax quota at the end of Timur's reign. To fight against inflation, Khayishan's administration established granaries in localities and drastically increased the quota for the maritime shipment of grain from Yangtze, the valley, reaching 2.9 million shi in 1310. Khayishan reduced the number of chief officials in the Secretariat, the Censorate, the Bureau of Military Affairs, and the Bureau of Transmission, as well as supernumeraries in various offices. After the reign of less than 4 years, Khayishan suddenly died in January 27, 1311. Immediately after his death and Ayabawada's succession in 1311, the unsatisfactory Ungirad faction came together under his mother Dagi and purged pro-Khayishan officials. It also broke Ayabawada's promise to appoint Khayishan's son as crown prince. His court drove Khayishan's sons Kusala and Tufdima out of the central government. Pro-Khayishan generals cherished grievances until they managed to set up Tufdima in 1328.